Good morning, everyone. Good Tvach, Shavua Tov. We are in Mishna Bikurim, Parak Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishna Daled, Mishna 4. I'd like to dedicate this morning's learning in memory of my mother, Mrs. Shalom, Mr. Rabinowitz, Shalom, Mrs. Bas Rabbi Yaakov Eliezer. These are the people who bring Bikurim but do not read. The first Mishnah told us that there are people who bring Bikurim and read a special declaration that's made when bringing Bikurim. And the first Mishnah, and then there are those who bring and don't read, and there are those who don't bring at all. So the first couple of Mishnayos discussed those who don't bring at all. And now we are going to be discussing the next category, which is Elu Mevi'in V'Lo Korin. These are the ones who bring but do not read. Hager Me'bi Ve'ena Korei. A convert brings Bikurim as a mitzvah like everybody else. Ve'ena Korei. But he cannot read. He cannot read the passages that come along with bringing Bikurim. Why? Because he is not able to say, Asher Nishba Hashem La'avaseinu L'Seslanu. He's not able to say part of the declaration that said, the words are, this is a quote, that he says, a person says, Asher Nishba Hashem La'avaseinu, that Hashem swore to our forefathers, L'Seslanu Tiv to us. This is where we're thanking the Rebbeinu Shalom for giving us Eretz Yisrael, that Hashem swore to our forefathers to give to us. Now, if he's a convert, or he's a descendant of converts, one convert after another, then his forefathers were not promised the land. His forefathers were not Jewish; they were not promised the land, and therefore, for him to make that declaration wouldn't be truthful, and therefore he can't make it, and he can't make part of it either. Now, Imam Yisrael, but if let's say his mother was a born Jew, his father was a convert, and his mother was a born Jew. So even though, now clearly he's Jewish, because his mother's Jewish. But his lineage, but a father decides which tribe you belong to, or you're a Kohen, or you're a Levi, doesn't have that. Nonetheless, and the land was given to the land of Eretz Yisrael was given to the men. Men were given a portion, not women. Nonetheless, from Imam Yisrael, if his mother was a born Jew, meaning her lineage is from Jews so there's no converts in her lineage, or in her, call it direct lineage, maybe the Korei, then he brings and he reads. Meaning, if his mother, her lineage is from those who inherited the land, that's enough for him to say that Hashem swore to our forefathers. His ancestors on his mother's side are also his ancestors. And therefore, then it would be appropriate for him to say those words that Hashem swore to our fathers. Now, it's also true that if, let's say, his mother is a convert and his father was Jewish, he's all going to be born Jewish, rather. He's also going to be able to say, swore to our forefathers, because from his father's side, he has the ancestry. But the Mishnah is saying that even if it's his mother's line, that's enough. If it's his mother's line, that's enough for him to say our forefathers. Now, here, Mishnah tells us something very interesting. This is not something that we practice. Now, when a convert davens by himself, says the Shemona Esrei by himself, so in the Shemona Esrei, we also have a word, Avoseinu, our fathers. We say, Elokeinu v'Elokei Avoseinu, the God and the God of our forefathers. So the Mishnah, but if he's a ger, it's not his forefathers. So referring to our forefathers, I would say our forefathers, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He doesn't have a lineage from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So when he davens by himself, Omer Elokei Avos Yisrael, the God of the fathers of Israel. Again, his lineage, his fathers, are not the fathers of Israel. He converted; he's a full-fledged Jew, but it wouldn't be considered truthful for him to say those words. Now, what if he is in shul, and not only is he in shul, he's the chazan, he's leading the services. He says, Elokei Avaseichem, the God of your fathers. And he can't say it on himself. And again, the Mishnah says, but if his mother is a Yisrael, she's from a family of born Jews, then he is able to say the God of our forefathers. Because through his mother's line, he has the ancestry to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Now, we do not we do not follow, in practice, we don't follow this. If a convert davens Shemona Esrei, he says, Elokeinu Elokeinu Seinu, our God and God of our forefathers. And the reason for that is the following. I'll read it to you here from the notes. Yerushalmi, Talmud Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, cites a Tana, a sage from the period of the Mishnah, who disagrees with our Mishnah. In his view, a convert may say that Hashem swore to our forefathers to give to us in the Bikurim passage. He may also say the God of our forefathers in the Shemona Esrei. This Tana's reason is that Abraham is considered the father of all converts. As the Torah states, for I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. Av Hamoin Goyim Nesaticha. When Abraham's name, when Abraham's name went from Abram to Abraham with the extra hey, that was to teach Ki Av Hamoin. This is to tell Abraham Ki Av Hamoin Goyim Nesaticha. For I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. And that means to say that since Abraham taught all the nations to believe in God, a convert who has formally adopted this belief can correctly be described as a spiritual descendant of Abraham. And therefore, as a spiritual descendant of Abraham, the convert is able to say, the God, Avosenu, our forefathers. We continue with the laws of Rechilas and the Chavetz Chaim, Klal Zayin. We're up now to chapter 7, Sif Allah, paragraph 1. In Chilak Be'isr Sipar Rechilas, there is no difference when it comes to the prohibition of saying Rechilas, meaning telling someone what someone else said about them or did to them. But in Masaper Isha, the prohibition applies to everyone, men and women. Whether it's a relative or not a relative. Even if he heard someone speak disparagingly of his own parents. And because he's very upset due to their honor, he told them. I mean, he wants to express to them how bad he feels about what that person said about them. Nonetheless, it's rechilas, because by saying it over to your parents, that's going to cause your parents to have animosity towards this person. No difference about who we're talking about. Whether you're talking about, meaning the rechilas you're saying, the person you're saying the rechilas about, whether it's a man or a woman, gadol katan, adult or minor, it all falls under the category of rechilas, as said before. Now here, the next thing is the Chavetz Chaim now paints what seemed to have been a common case in those days, and maybe it's still common. Well, not exactly all the details, but a common case as there was in those days of where speaking rechilas about a minor, what problems it can make. And that's the point of rechilas. Rechilas is that if you create animosity in some way based on saying what someone did or said about someone else, that's rechilas. There are people who stumble in this. When the two kids beating each other up, they're hitting each other. Now you saw this, you saw the two boys fighting. So you go tell the father of one of them, oh, so-and-so's son hit your son. That can create lots of problems. Because now the father of the kid who got beaten up, he goes and he beats or strikes that kid who beat up his kid. That doesn't happen so much. That doesn't happen anymore, or as much anymore. That turns into a fight between the fathers. She says this is very common in the study hall. Seems to be common in shul, in the study hall. The fathers are there, the kids are there, the kids got into a fight, and all this happens. If we try to count all the prohibitions that have been transgressed based on what this person said, he said it'd be too much to count. Now, certainly, if you don't know which kid was right, you for certainly can go tell the father one of them. Even if he knows clearly that the one who got beaten up was in the right. I'll peak, and therefore the other child had no right to beat him up. I mean, again, it wasn't. Whatever. What I mean to say is that maybe it came out that that you're watching. Maybe the other kid was really beating up the other kid, so he fought back. But let's say that's not what happened. You don't tell the other father about it. Unless the conditions that we're going to talk about later that will help that help us figure out if what you're saying is for a constructive purpose, that'd be a different story. I can imagine that you want to go ahead and tell a father that so-and-so's kid beat up your kid, to tell your kid to stay away from him. That could be considered toyelis for constructive purpose. Then you got to get into all the conditions that have to be met for that. But the point is, just to go ahead and run and tell someone how someone's kid beat up his kid, that would be rechilas, because it could just cause lots of animosity and problems. If there's some kind of constructive purpose, then we'll have to discuss that later, when the Chavetz Chaim gets very in detail into those laws and conditions about telling someone what would typically be rechilas Lashon Harah for a constructive purpose. Have a wonderful day.